What would you do if the family you financially supported for years coldly cut you out of their will? Did they think you'd silently swallow your anger? When my parents handed me their new will with a smirk, declaring, "You won't get a single cent," I simply smiled back. They had no idea they'd just triggered the most devastating financial revenge of their lives. This is how I turned from their personal ATM into their worst nightmare. I'm Naomi, 35 years old, and by all measures, I've made it. As a senior logistics manager at Anderson Global Solutions in Chicago, I pull in six figures annually. My downtown condo overlooks Lake Michigan. My brand new Tesla Model S sits in the underground garage, and my investment portfolio could sustain a family of four comfortably for years. On paper, I'm living the American dream. But success has a funny way of making you a target, especially when your family sees you as nothing more than a walking ATM. Every Sunday, without fail, I receive the call. "Naomi, honey, don't forget family dinner tonight. 6 sharp." My mother's voice always carries that perfect blend of sweetness and expectation that makes refusal impossible. So I go, driving 45 minutes to their suburban home, the one I helped them refinance 5 years ago. The moment I walk through the door, the comparisons begin. "Look at our career woman," Dad announces to no one in particular, his tone suggesting this isn't entirely a compliment. "Still married to that job? I see." My brother Alex lounges on the couch, unemployment stretching into its 8th month. His wife Linda sits beside him, scrolling through her phone, probably browsing online sales with money they don't have. Their 2 kids run wild through the house, sticky fingers touching everything, while Linda sighs dramatically about how expensive children are these days. "Must be nice," Linda says, eyeing my designer handbag. "Having all that money to spend on yourself, no responsibilities, no one to worry about but yourself?" I bite my tongue, remembering the $800 I transferred last week for their kids' soccer camp, the camp they desperately needed but somehow couldn't afford. During dinner, the conversation follows its usual script. Mom laments how none of her friends have grandchildren from me yet. Dad questions why I work such long hours when I should be settling down. Alex contributes by mentioning how tough the job market is, conveniently forgetting the 3 interviews he's blown off this month. "You know," Mom says, passing the green beans, "Mrs. Patterson's daughter just had her second baby. She's 5 years younger than you. Naomi?" "That's wonderful for her," I respond, my smile so practiced it feels permanent. "When you have kids, you'll understand what real responsibility is," Linda adds, bouncing her toddler on her knee. "It's not all about climbing the corporate ladder and buying fancy cars." The irony isn't lost on me. The woman who hasn't worked a day since marrying my brother is lecturing me about responsibility. The same woman who texts me links to designer strollers with hints about early Christmas gifts for the kids. After dinner, while I help Mom with dishes, she mentions the property tax bill that's coming due. "Things are just so tight with your father's pension," she sighs, knowing I'll offer to handle it. I always do. "I'll take care of it, Mom," I say, scrubbing a plate harder than necessary. "You're such a good daughter, even if you haven't given us grandchildren yet." The drive home is my decompression chamber. I blast music, drowning out the echo of their backhanded compliments and subtle digs. My phone buzzes at a red light, a Venmo request from Alex for $200. "Gas money for job hunting," the note says. "I'll approve it later." Just like I always do. Back in my condo, I pour myself a generous glass of wine and stare at my bank statements. The family expenses have their own category in my budget spreadsheet. It's a number that would make most people's eyes water. But I've been telling myself it's duty, love, obligation, whatever label makes it easier to swallow. They never ask how my promotion went. They don't know I'm being headhunted by 3 Fortune 500 companies. They've never once visited my office or asked about my work beyond whether it pays well enough to keep their gravy train running. I am successful, independent, and accomplished. But to them, I'm just Naomi, the unmarried daughter with deep pockets and no real responsibilities. The reliable cash cow who should be grateful they still include her in family dinners. If only I knew that their definition of family came with fine print and an expiration date. 5 years ago, everything changed with a single phone call. "Naomi, sweetheart, we need to talk." My father's voice carried an urgency I'd never heard before. They were about to lose the house, the suburban dream home where I'd grown up, where every Christmas photo still lived on the mantel. How much? I asked, already reaching for my laptop. 40,000. The bank wants it by month's end, or they'll foreclose. I didn't hesitate. What kind of daughter would let her parents lose their home within 48 hours? I'd liquidated some investments and wired the money. The relief in my mother's voice made it worth it. You saved us, honey. We'll never forget this. But that was just the beginning. Once they knew I could provide, the requests became routine. First, it was the new roof, another 15,000. You know we'd do it ourselves if we could, Mom explained, though they'd never tried to find a cheaper contractor or explore payment plans. Then came the medical bills, Dad's back surgery, Mom's dental work. Each time, they'd present it as a crisis with no solution except my checkbook. I paid without question, telling myself this was what family did for each other. Alex's unemployment stretched from weeks to months to years. The economy's tough, he'd say, while Linda posted photos from their weekend trips to Wisconsin Dells, trips funded by the emergency assistance I provided monthly. Could you cover the kids' preschool this month? Linda would text, we're just a little short. Every month they were just a little short. The utility bills started arriving at my email. It's easier if you just pay them directly, Mom suggested, so I did. Electric, gas, water, internet, all on autopay from my account. The grocery deliveries I ordered for them became weekly. The car insurance for both their vehicles, my responsibility. You're so blessed to be in a position to help, Linda once told me at Thanksgiving, while wearing the designer boots I knew cost more than their rent. Not everyone has your advantages. My advantages, as if my 70-hour work weeks were luck, as if my MBA loans that took 8 years to pay off were gifts from the universe, as if sacrificing my 20s to build my career was some cosmic lottery I'd won. But I swallowed my resentment. This was my role in the family ecosystem, the provider. They needed me, and being needed felt like being loved, or at least, I could pretend it did. The real kicker came when I calculated the total last year. Between the mortgage assistance, bills, Alex's family support, and various emergencies, I'd given them over $75,000. More than many people's annual salary, not a penny repaid. Not that I'd asked, but also, not a single genuine thank you. Instead, I got lectures about my priorities. Money isn't everything, Naomi, Mom would say, while cashing my checks. When are you going to focus on what really matters, family? The irony was suffocating. I'd sacrificed vacations, delayed home renovations, and skipped the European trip I'd dreamed about since college, all to support my family. Yet somehow, I was the one who didn't understand family values. Must be nice to have disposable income, Alex commented one evening, seeing me check my investment app, this from the man whose children's college funds existed solely because of my monthly contributions. Linda was worse. She'd mastered the art of passive-aggressive gratitude. Thanks for the kids' school supplies. Naomi, I guess when you don't have children of your own, you can afford to spoil other people's. Every family gathering became a masterclass in manipulation. They'd discuss their financial struggles within earshot, knowing I'd offer to help. They'd mention broken appliances, car troubles, or missed opportunities, then act surprised when I volunteered solutions. Oh, Naomi, we couldn't possibly ask you to do that. Mom would protest weekly, already extending her hand for the check. The worst part, they'd rewritten history. To hear them tell it, their survival was due to their own resilience and careful planning. My contributions were footnotes, barely mentioned except when they needed more. We've always been good with money, Dad boasted to relatives last 4th of July. It's all about living within your means. I nearly choked on my burger. Living within their means, if their means included my bank account. But I kept quiet, kept paying, kept showing up. Because that's what good daughters do, right? They give without expecting returns. They support without seeking credit. They love without conditions. 5 years of financial hemorrhaging, disguised as family duty. 5 years of being the silent safety net, the unacknowledged savior, the ATM with a heartbeat. And after all that, they were about to show me exactly what my unconditional support had bought me: absolutely nothing. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. The invitation came via group text. Unusually formal for my family. Special dinner this Saturday. Important announcement. Don't be late. Mom had even used an emoji. Something was definitely up. I arrived to find the dining room transformed. The good china was out, the set inherited from Grandma that only appeared on Christmas and Easter. Candles flickered on the table, and Dad wore his only suit, the one I'd bought him 3 years ago. "What's the occasion?" I asked, setting down the wine I'd brought. "Patience, honey," Mom beamed, practically vibrating with excitement. "Wait until everyone's here." Alex and Linda arrived with the kids, also dressed up. Linda wore a new dress I hadn't seen before, and Alex had actually trimmed his beard. Whatever this announcement was, it was big. We made small talk through appetizers, the atmosphere crackling with anticipation. Finally, over the main course. Dad cleared his throat and stood up. "We have something important to share," he began, reaching for a manila envelope beside his plate. "Your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking about the future." My heart skipped. Were they finally planning to downsize, take responsibility for their finances? Maybe even acknowledge everything I'd done. "We've updated our will," Mom announced, clasping her hands together. "It's important to have everything in order." Dad pulled out the document, his reading glasses perched on his nose. "We wanted to be completely transparent with all of you about our wishes." I set down my fork, a strange unease creeping up my spine. "The house, all our savings, and any remaining assets will go to Alex," Dad read, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. "As the trustee for his children's future," the words hit me like ice water. "The grandchildren are our legacy," Mom added quickly, smiling at the kids. "They need to be provided for. College is so expensive these days." I sat frozen, processing, then, cutting through the fog. "What about me?" The question hung in the air. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. "Well, honey," Mom said gently, as if explaining to a child, "you don't need anything. You're so successful. You have your career, your condo, your investments. Alex has a family to support," Dad added. "You don't have those responsibilities." Linda couldn't resist chiming in. "It's really what's fair. Naomi, you've been blessed with so much already. You should be happy that your parents are thinking about the next generation." "Happy. I should be happy. So I get nothing." My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. "Don't be dramatic." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "It's not about getting things. It's about what's best for the family. You understand." It wasn't a question. "Besides," Dad continued, folding the will back into its envelope, "by the time we're gone, you'll probably have millions saved up. What would you even do with a little inheritance?" A little inheritance, the house I'd saved from foreclosure, the savings account I'd helped build with my monthly transfers, little. "This is a celebration," Alex finally spoke, raising his beer. "To Mom and Dad, for thinking ahead, and to family taking care of family." Everyone raised their glasses, everyone except me. "Naomi," Mom's voice carried a warning. "Aren't you going to toast?" I looked around the table, at my parents, so pleased with their decision, at Alex, already calculating his future windfall, at Linda, smirking behind her wineglass, at the children, oblivious to the adult drama, just happy to be eating cake soon. 5 years, over $75,000, countless sacrifices, delayed dreams, all for this moment, to be told I was too successful to be considered family when it counted. "You know what's funny?" I heard myself say, my voice eerily calm. "Last month when you needed $3,000 for the property taxes, you didn't think I was too successful to ask. That's different," Mom said quickly. "Or when the roof needed replacing, or the medical bills, or Alex's monthly support, or the kids' school supplies, or—" "You offered," Linda interjected. "No one forced you." "You're right." I nodded slowly. "No one forced me. I gave freely, out of love, out of duty, out of this naive belief that family meant something more than a one-way street." "Don't be selfish." Dad's voice turned stern. "We raised you better than that." Selfish. The word echoed in my mind. Selfish for expecting to be remembered. Selfish for thinking 5 years of financial support might warrant inclusion. Selfish for believing I was more than just a convenient funding source. I stood up, my napkin falling to the floor. You're absolutely right. I don't need your money. I never did. But you know what? You've needed mine. Funny how that works. Sit down, Mom hissed. You're making a scene. But I was already reaching for my purse. As I did, a text notification popped up on my phone. Another Venmo request from Alex. $50 for gas. The audacity was almost admirable. Thank you for dinner, I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside. And thank you for the clarity. It's good to know exactly where I stand. Naomi, don't be like this, Mom called after me as I headed for the door. We're still family. I turned back, taking in the scene one last time, the good china, the formal clothes, the celebration of my exclusion dressed up as prudent planning. Are we? I asked, because from where I'm standing, I'm just the hired help who's no longer needed after hours. The drive home was a blur, but by the time I reached my condo, the tears had dried and something harder had crystallized in their place. They wanted me to smile and accept my dismissal from the family fortune I'd helped preserve fine. Then they could accept the consequences of cutting off the hand that fed them. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop, a legal pad, and every bank statement from the past 5 years. The numbers stared back at me, each transaction a reminder of my stupidity. $75,000 was just the beginning. When I added the utilities, groceries, insurance payments, and those small Venmo transfers that happened almost daily, the real total was closer to $120,000. Enough for a down payment on a second property, enough for the European adventure I'd postponed indefinitely, enough for 100 things I'd denied myself while bankrolling their comfortable existence. At 3 a.m., I texted my college roommate Sarah, now a successful attorney at a downtown firm. Need legal advice? Can we meet tomorrow? Her response came within minutes. Everything okay? My office, 10 a.m. Sarah listened without interrupting as I laid out the entire situation. When I finished, she leaned back in her leather chair, fingers steepled. Legally, you can't recoup what you've given voluntarily, she said. No written agreements, no promissory notes. These were gifts in the eyes of the law. I know, I replied. I'm not trying to get it back. I just want to understand my obligations going forward. You have none. Her response was immediate. 0. You're not legally required to support able-bodied adults, even if they're family. Every utility in their name, every payment you make, that's a choice, not an obligation. What if they can't pay their bills? Then they'll figure it out like millions of other adults do. Get jobs, downsize, budget, adult things. As I left her office, Sarah grabbed my arm. Naomi, I've seen this before. The guilt will be crushing at first. They'll use every manipulation tactic in the book. But remember, they just told you in writing that you don't matter to them beyond your wallet. Believe them. Back home, I created a spreadsheet. Every automatic payment, every bill in my name, every financial tentacle connecting me to them. The list was longer than I'd realized. Parents' mortgage payment assistance, $1, $200. Month utilities for parents' house, $400 month. Alex's family emergency fund, $500 month kids' education expenses, $300 month parents' car insurance, $250 month grocery deliveries, $600 month miscellaneous Venmo requests, $400 months. Monthly total, $3, $650. Annual $43, $800. I stared at the number until it burned into my retinas. $43,000 a year in after-tax income. I was literally working from January to March just to fund their lifestyle. The next morning, I called in sick to work. The first time in 2 years, I needed clarity, space to think without the usual chaos. My phone buzzed with the daily Venmo request from Alex. $30 for diapers. I stared at it. Then for the first time ever, hit decline. Within minutes, my phone rang. Alex, I let it go to voicemail. Then Linda, then Mom, then Dad. 14 missed calls by noon. The text started flooding in Alex. Did you decline by accident? The kids need diapers. Linda. Really, Naomi? You're being petty over $30. Mom. Call me immediately. This is ridiculous. Dad. Your mother is upset. Whatever your problem is, we can discuss it like adults. Like adults. That was rich coming from people who hadn't paid their own electric bill in 5 years. I turned off my phone and went for a walk along the lakefront. The November air was sharp, clearing my head with each breath. Joggers passed. People walked dogs. Life continued its rhythm. Nobody knew I was in the middle of planning what would either be my liberation or my family's financial apocalypse. That evening, I turned my phone back on to find 47 missed calls and dozens of increasingly frantic texts, the final one from Mom. If you don't respond by tonight, we're driving to your condo. I texted back a single line. I'm fine, taking some time to think about my priorities. We'll be in touch soon. Then I opened my laptop and began making lists. Every account that needed closing, every automatic payment to cancel, every financial tie to sever. It was like planning a surgical amputation, necessary, but guaranteed to cause screaming. But between the legal pads and spreadsheets, a strange feeling emerged. Not anger anymore. That had burned itself out somewhere around 4 a.m. Not even sadness. Really, it was something lighter. Almost like relief they'd made their choice. They'd put it in writing, made it official, celebrated it over good china and candlelight. I wasn't family when it came to inheritance, just the help who should be grateful for the privilege of serving. Well, if I wasn't family for the will, then I wasn't family for the bills. You've been too successful, they'd said. You don't need us. They were right about one thing. I didn't need them. But oh, how they were about to discover exactly how much they needed me. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. $3,650 a month was about to stay right where it belonged, in my account. Let's see how successful they thought I was when the lights started going off. Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. I began the systematic dismantling of my financial empire. 5 years of automatic payments, standing orders, and financial safety nets, all about to vanish with a few phone calls and clicks. First call, Citizens Bank. I need to cancel the automatic transfer to account ending in 4891. I told the representative, the $200 monthly transfer, may I ask why you're canceling? The recipients no longer require my assistance. I said simply, would you like to reduce the amount instead of canceling entirely? No. Complete cancellation. Effective immediately. Next ComEd, People's Gas, AT&T, Comcast, one by one. I removed my payment method from my parents' utility accounts. Each representative asked if I wanted to notify the account holders about the change in billing. They'll figure it out, I replied each time. The insurance company was trickier. You're listed as the primary payer for 2 vehicles, the agent explained. If you remove your payment method without a replacement, the policies will lapse after the grace period. I understand. Are you sure they'll be driving without insurance? That sounds like their problem to solve. By noon, I'd severed every automated financial connection. But I wasn't done. I logged into the kids' school portal and removed my card from their lunch money accounts, canceled the grocery delivery subscription, removed myself as an authorized user from every account that might somehow make me liable for their choices. The phone started ringing at 2:47 p.m. Mom. Naomi, there must be some mistake. I just got an email saying our internet will be shut off for non-payment. No mistake, I said calmly. I've removed my payment method from all your accounts. Silence. Then, what do you mean, removed? I mean, I'm no longer paying for your utilities, insurance, groceries, or anything else. You'll need to update the billing information with your own payment methods. But we don't have, she sputtered. Naomi, you can't just… Actually, I can, and I have. Is this about the will, honey? You explained perfectly. I'm too successful to be included in family inheritance. Well, I'm also too successful to be anyone's personal ATM anymore. The call waiting beeped. Dad. I have to go, I said. Dad's calling. Probably just found out about the car insurance. I switched calls. Hi, Dad? What the hell did you do? His roar could probably be heard from space. I just got a notice that our insurance is canceled. Not canceled. You just need to pay for it yourselves now. With what money you know our situation? The same money you're leaving to Alex in your will, I suppose. This is insane. You're punishing us because… I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply redirecting my financial priorities. Isn't that what you taught me, to be smart with money? The calls kept coming. Alex was next, panicked about the declined Venmo requests piling up. Then Linda, shrieking about the kids' lunch accounts. They'll go hungry, she wailed. Pack them lunch. I hear sandwiches are economical. You're a monster. How can you do this to children? The same way you smiled at me over dinner while your in-laws wrote me out of their will. Besides, their parents should be providing for them, not their too successful aunt who doesn't understand real family responsibility. Remember? Tuesday brought the extended family into the mix. Apparently, Mom had started a campaign, calling relatives to share how I'd abandoned them. Aunt Marie called first. Naomi, what's this I hear about you cutting off your parents? I stopped paying their bills. There's a difference. But they're your parents. And according to them, I'm just their overly successful daughter who doesn't need family. They made it official and everything. The narrative was already spinning. In their version, I was throwing a tantrum over money I didn't need. The years of support were minimized to helping out occasionally. The $120,000 became a few dollars here and there. By Wednesday, the real consequences hit. Mom called crying. Their internet had been shut off. How are we supposed to function without internet? The library has free Wi-Fi, or you could, pay the bill. We can't afford. Then maybe Alex should get a job. I hear they're hiring at Target. He's looking for something in his field. He's been looking for 4 years. Maybe it's time to lower his standards. Thursday was electric company day. The shut-off notice gave them 10 days to pay or make arrangements. The house will be freezing, Dad raged over the phone. Your mother's arthritis. Payment plans exist. Social services exist. Children who help their parents exist. Oh, wait. According to your will, I'm not really your child when it matters. Am I? You're twisting things. I'm quoting you directly. Too successful. Don't need anything. Ring any bells. The beautiful part was the simplicity of it all. No drama, no scenes, no begging, just the quiet click of cancel buttons and the polite voices of customer service representatives. 5 years of financial entanglement undone in less than a week. My bank account, meanwhile, looked different. That $650 that usually evaporated each month sat there, accumulating. I stared at the balance, did the math on what I could do with an extra $43,800 a year, max out my 401k, take that European trip, start the investment property portfolio I'd always dreamed about, or just breathe, knowing my money was finally mine. Friday afternoon. I received a formal-looking email from Alex. He'd apparently decided to approach this professionally. Naomi, I'm writing to request reconsideration of your recent financial decisions. While we understand you're upset about the will, abandoning your family obligations is not the answer. We're prepared to discuss a modified arrangement that acknowledges your contributions while maintaining necessary support structures. Support structures? Is that what we were calling it now? I typed back, No thank you. I'm sure you'll manage. After all, you're getting everything in the will. Consider this practice for when that day comes. The last text I saw before muting their numbers was from Linda. You'll regret this when you're old and alone with your money. Maybe. But I'd rather be alone with my money than surrounded by people who only valued me as a checking account. Cutting financial ties with family is like ripping off a bandage fused to your skin. It hurts, it bleeds, and everyone screams. But sometimes, it's the only way to heal. The family grapevine works faster than fiber optic internet. Ironically, since my parents no longer had any internet at all, within 2 weeks, every relative within a 3-state radius had heard some version of the story. The versions varied wildly depending on who was telling it. According to my parents, I'd had a mental breakdown and turned my back on family values. In Alex's version, I was going through a midlife crisis and punishing innocent children. Linda's take was the most creative. Apparently, I was jealous of their family happiness and lashing out from loneliness. None of them mentioned the will. Funny how that detail kept getting lost in translation. My cousin Beth reached out first, one of the few relatives I actually liked. Want to grab coffee? I'm hearing some wild stories and figured I'd get your side. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. Beth listened without interrupting as I laid out the facts, the years of financial support, the will celebration dinner, my decision to stop funding people who'd literally written me off. Holy shit, she finally said. Uncle Rob and Aunt Carol did that, and they're playing victim now. Check their Facebook, I said, pulling up Mom's page on my phone. The posts were a masterclass in manipulation, vague statuses about family betrayal and broken hearts, photos of happier times with captions like, "Remember when family meant everything." Prayer request posts asking friends to lift up our family during this difficult time of abandonment. This is insane. Beth scrolled through. Wait, is this comment from Aunt Marie saying you're refusing to help with Dad's medication? He has prescription coverage through Medicare. I just stopped paying for their premium cable package. Beth started laughing, then caught herself. Sorry, it's not funny. It's just, they're acting like you cut off their oxygen when you really just cut off their HBO. But the real intelligence came from unexpected sources. My hairdresser, who also did Mom's hair, mentioned that she'd been complaining about having to cancel her monthly appointment. Said something about financial difficulties. I offered her my senior discount. The nail technician at my regular salon had similar intel. Your sister-in-law was in here last week. Had to settle for regular polish instead of gel. She was not happy about it. My personal trainer knew Alex from the gym when he used to have a membership. He let it lapse months ago, but I saw him last week asking about payment plans. Guess that explains it. These little glimpses painted a picture of families scrambling to adjust to actually paying for their own lifestyle. Every small luxury they'd taken for granted was now a financial decision. But the real show began when extended families started choosing sides. Uncle Pete, my dad's brother, called me directly. Naomi, I'm not saying what you did was wrong, but couldn't you have given them warning, ease them off slowly? Did they give me warning before writing me out of the will? That's different. How is that different? He couldn't answer. Aunt Marie was less diplomatic. She left a voicemail that could have peeled paint. You should be ashamed of yourself. Your parents gave you life, and this is how you repay them, by letting them struggle. You're no better than those deadbeat children you see on the news. I saved that voicemail. Sometimes when I felt guilty, I'd replay it and remember that these people saw me as nothing more than a walking wallet with familial obligations. But the interesting part was what happened next. Other relatives started reaching out privately, sharing their own stories. Cousin Tom confessed he'd been supplementing his parents' income for years. They've never said thank you. Just expect the check every month. My second cousin Sarah had a similar tale. I paid for my brother's rehab twice. He's never acknowledged it, and our parents act like I should do more. Great Aunt Helen, the family matriarch at 87, called with surprising clarity. Good for you, sweetie. I watched your parents milk you dry for years. About time you stood up for yourself. But family, I started. Family doesn't mean doormat, she interrupted. I've got 70 years on you, kiddo. Take it from me. The only people angry about boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having